I'm going to show you the router. This is a subtractive process. This is great for doing all sorts of things. Now we've got a CNC router, but routing traditionally was done by hand, and it's really difficult to do by hand. So yeah, well, certainly someone like me who is not very experienced with such things, I would typically put this on the CNC router or design it in CAD, then put it on the CNC router. However, it's good for you guys to know this process. Now, the router is essentially a drill which spins round, but instead of just going up and down, this one can go side to side, and we can go side to side on basically on a X and Y axis, depending on where we want to go. And we can set the height. You can see it's got a height gauge there. And yeah, they're pretty scary to use, to be honest. I don't like these things because they're really noisy and they're really scary and they're really hard to control. So that's why we have this fence on the edge, depending on the type of route you're doing. These are great if you want to do internal, say, slots on a piece of material. So, for example, I've got here what's called a straight flute, or this is actually a 2-flute, double fluted router bit, but it's just called a straight flute bit. So what this will do, or straight flute cutter, what this can do, we've drilled a hole in here. This could then go into the hole. We could fire up the router, and then that could then just travel along in a straight line until we get to where we want to go, and then that will put a nice slot in there. I'm not going to demo that because I'm a bit scared of doing it, if I'm honest, so if you can forgive me for that, that'd be great. However, I will show you how to do a nice rounded edge. Now you can see on here, this one looks like a cone. Now if you imagine imagine what the inverse of this would look like. This will give a nice, what we call in CAD, a fillet on the edge. It'll give a nice rounded edge. And we can actually use this and run along. Oh God, this thing's quite heavy. Yeah, there we go. We can then run along the edge all the way down, and then we can get a nice rounded edge, and I will show you that. So I'm just gonna get the router set up, and then we'll get cracking. Right, so we're good to go. Now I've leveled up the router, so I get my hands organized here. I've leveled the router up so the bottom of the radius is flush with the bed of the bed plate of the router. So when I start routing along here, it will sit really nicely on here, and then it will go along. Now the router spins, so it does have a cutting direction. So the blade of the router is there. So we actually want to think about the direction in which we're pulling the router, because we want to be pulling it so that we are pulling, so that the teeth on here are actually going to be cutting into the material as we push, rather than us pulling in the other direction, so that would actually cause the teeth to sort of be sliding backwards over the edge. So with this, I'm actually going to want to push forwards like that. So here we go. Let's see if we can do this. So I'm going to turn off the lock. There we go. It's lit up and goggles are on. It's go time. It's really loud. Wow. So I'm covered in sawdust now. Wow. All right. Yeah. So, yeah, you can see it's quite messy. That's why we wear aprons, kids. Yeah. There we go. So, oh well. All in the process of learning. Here we are. Check this out. Woo! Nice. So there we've got a lovely, really flush, perfectly, as we'd say in CAD, tangential fillet. So it means it blends perfectly from being a flat into a radii. So yeah, that's how you can imagine with furniture, that's how you can get really nice, like rounded edges, or you can even get these router bits in different shapes. So it might have a sort of double curve on it, or yeah, it might have a sort of little edge at the bottom, or whatever it is. You can get very decorative edges with a router. Yeah, I'm glad that's over, to be honest, because it was quite scary. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for your time, everyone.